I'm Todd Bookspan, and welcome to your neighborhood real estate show. The hyperlocal real estate show where real estate professionals talk about the neighborhood you live in or the neighborhood you want to live in. This episode is brought to you by homebuyeruniversity.net, your free comprehensive guide to buying or refinancing your home. Click over to homebuyeruniversity.net to get started online today. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Your Neighborhood Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Todd Bookspan, and I'm actually really excited. I've got the Castillo group here today, Lauren and Josean.
Hello.
Josean.
Yep.
Josean. You know what? I just knew I was going to be in trouble there. So I'm super excited. You guys are working with Real Broker, and I know that that's a great group of folks here in Arizona working there. And I always love when I got a couples in real estate together. So kind of give me the, what you guys love about real estate, and kind of if you want to give anything about when you got into it or how you got into it, that'd be awesome.
You take that one.
Well, we got into real estate after buying our first home. We were just going to rent, but we decided to try to get it pre-approved, and we did. And then we ended up buying our first house. But the experience that we had wasn't the best with our agent that we used.
So we thought it was really easy.
Yeah. But then Lauren decided to jump in because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, at the time I was working at a bar, and Josean was also working at a bar. He was working at the Cheesecake Factory, but I was like a bar.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then I dove right into it, and it was a lot harder than I imagined, but I decided that I was going to kick butt and I was going to treat people like people, and that's when everything just took off. And then within 6 months, that's when Josean stopped working and he joined us, and we became the Castillo group.
Well, and I just love that. I mean, I love the fact that you took a bet on yourselves, right? And jumped in, and I do think people think it looks easier. I just don't know.
Oh yeah.
You went through the experience and thought that. I think people see it on TV and think it's really easy because
they
make everything on TV seem way easier. And I know we'll talk about investing in a few minutes because that's what we see a lot of, fix and flippers and stuff like that on TV. But I know you have a great passion for that and love helping people. But before we kind of jump in on that, let's talk for a minute about, you said people are people and they want to be treated like that. So, I mean, how do you feel like when you're talking to clients, how do you feel like a client can understand if the realtor they're talking to really believes that?
Well, I don't talk to them like a professional. I'm not like, sir, ma'am. I'm actually like, hey, girlfriend. And I mostly talk to the ladies. I mostly connect with the ladies. So that's mostly our clientele.
They're the ones that take charge.
Yeah,
well.
yeah, absolutely. But, it's like, hey, girlfriend, hey, chica. And I just tell them, my opinion, and I'm just honest with them. And, it's actually really fun because a lot of them, we see them connect with their spouses, they get into their homes, they have children, and then, we're invited to weddings, and it's just beautiful. You just start to go through life with them. But that is the goal, is a lifelong relationship.
Yeah, not transactional, but we want to educate and create relationships with everybody.
Yeah, it makes work not so much like work. It's actually enjoyable. Yep.
Well, and I just love it. And I just know, talking to you as we were prepping for the show, how excited you guys are to be doing what you're doing and how you love to help people, and especially on the wealth side. And so real quick, the market's kind of unique right now. So, I know you all love Surprise. So if someone doesn't know where Surprise, Arizona is, how would they get there? So they land at Sky Harbor Airport. Where is that?
Oh, man.
Go
take
west.
The time, go west. Yeah. Start
go
going
west and
towards
north.
California. Yeah. Take the 10, go west, and
it's basically the last major city before you hit, Whitman going towards Las Vegas. So it's actually pretty west, but it has grown a ton. We've been out there about 6 years now, and it's incredible how much it's grown. I mean, I can't even, like, they're building a new mall over there. It's lots of Dutch Bros. I think we have 3 Dutch Bros now within like 2 mile radius. Yeah. No, my gosh, we love it.
Yeah, I won't say my surprise story. I did my radio show for 5 years, and the first time I met real estate agent said, "Oh, meet me in Surprise." You know,
Uh-huh.
for some reason I kept going on the 10. I didn't realize I should drive on the 101. I didn't think it was so far north. So it was the
Yes.
one and only time I was really late for a meeting because
Yes.
apparently I didn't think using my map made sense on my phone. I don't know,
Yes.
but now I know where Surprise is, and so it's great, right? It's a community, right? That's growing as you have families move in there and people are part of it. Then the community builds around it, so it's got all the amenities, and I think that's pretty awesome.
Yes.
Everything.
Finally, commercial
Yeah.
is
we
well
really don't
much
have to
needed.
leave
Yes.
the area for anything.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Everything's new, beautiful. We love it.
And so demographic though, it's all over, right? I've got clients who are retirees living out there, and you already talked about young families, so it's got kind of something for everyone.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would say, gosh, yeah, no, it's pretty much everywhere, all across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, young families, older families.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in the first quarter of 2023. Market's a little different now. I mean, it's always changing, but it's a little bit different now. So if a seller comes to you, they're thinking about selling a home, how are you advising them? What's that conversation like?
Yeah, that's my department. Well, right now, I basically just see what their situation is and why they're looking to sell, and if they need to. If they don't need to, I'm actually recommending that they don't sell and they hold on to it. If they do need to sell, then it kind of is what it is. But if they can hold on to it, I'm saying don't. And I'm actually trying to get them more to rent out their house instead. Even though that makes us less money, that's okay because it's going to be better for them in the long run. And that's what I care about. So that's what that conversation really looks like.
All right, you all heard that. She said, even if it makes us less money, I care about what they're going to do. And so I love that piece of the wealth building conversation. I'd be remiss if I didn't just talk from a buyer's perspective for a second, because it'd be just so easy for me to go down that path and spend the rest of the time about it because you guys are passionate about it and so am I. But just from a buyer's perspective now, right? There's a little more inventory. How are you advising buyers to come into that who might still think it's crazy like last year when you had to have 25 offers?
I think we're having a good time with buyers right now. Honestly.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, because sellers right now are paying for closing costs again, and just depending on their situation, maybe they just have to pay for the down payment. There's a few down payment assistance programs that are existing, I think, for the conventional buyers right now. So if they have that, plus getting their closing costs covered, they're coming out with paying for their inspection and their appraisal and, buying a house for $1,000.
We normally work with the little guys. We normally work with the people that do not come from money or do not have a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, right now it's just a really exciting time because we actually have a few clients that are under contract where they're literally paying less than $1,000 to buy their house. Their down payment is completely covered by the assistance program, and then the seller's covering all their closing costs, plus they're getting repairs. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. It's an amazing time right now.
Yeah, it was definitely frustrating last year in the busy market. I never want to say crazy, but the busy market to help someone who didn't have a lot of cash.
Yes.
Right? It would really ruled them out. And if we go back to where we started with your story, right, you were thinking about renting and then you all bought a house and then it led to you getting into real estate. And I feel like oftentimes people forget it's not that hard. In fact, I talked to somebody today who used to be married to a realtor. A realtor referred over their ex, and she made the comment that's the first time I'm buying a house on my own, and I just never had any money to buy a house. And I was like, oh my gosh, you should have you could have bought years ago if you just would have actually asked the right questions.
Yeah.
So I just love the fact that she's buying now, and I love the fact that you love helping those folks.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think it seems like daunting for a lot of people, but
it's a lot easier than you think.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, and they're not that hard to qualify for. You have to meet the certain requirements to do so, but it's not any weaker of a loan and any of that. I think that's where there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are tons of ways that you can get into buying a house right now. So if you have at least $2,000, you have a shot. You can pull from a 401k if you have money for, your own down payment. You can get a gift from family or, a spouse, for example. But there's so many different opportunities. But the fact that now that closing costs are now back, that's going to save you a good $6,000 to $10,000. That is massive.
Yeah,
so absolutely. It's just a great time.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree.
Yep.
All right. Anything else we want to say on that before I talk about what I really want to talk about?
No.
All right.
Let's do it.
I loved it because you said we are wealth designer realtors. So how would you define that? Because I've never heard anyone say wealth designers. I've heard of wealth builders, but I love a wealth designer. That just sounds way more
absolutely
awesome.
So really it just starts off with what someone wants their life to look like. So if they want to completely replace their income, for example, and they want to stay at home with family, what number do they need to make? So then we reverse engineer it as far as like, okay, well, we need to have these many properties generating this amount of income to do that. So it's going to take years to happen, but we have a plan. So we're helping them basically design their life through real estate.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right. So think about that. It's just reverse engineering. They
Yep.
know what the number is, right? I mean,
Yes.
hopefully they can add up, hey, here's what it costs me to live.
Yes.
And then you're just helping them figure out through the rental income
Yep.
minus expenses that they can cover that, so that they have a choice whether they want to work
Exactly.
going forward or not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's lots of different strategies, lots of different ways that you can go into it. You could either convert, which is our favorite way to do. So you convert your primary house into an investment property, then you move to your next house, and then you can convert it again. And then now you have, 2 investment properties and then your third house. Or if you're like us, we were super impatient with our second house. We just stayed. And then every house after that has been an investment property, but that is pricier, where you need to put down at least 20%. So that's not the route we would normally recommend, but if you can do it.
But you found a house, you want to stay in it.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
we did.
If that's the life you want to live, it's just the harder route to go. But everyone's situation is different. So it really just depends. So we have to put a strategy in place. That's the biggest thing.
Well, and I love it too. And it's, I was pretty fortunate when I went to college. My dad got this crazy idea. Well, why don't we gift the down payment? I was on the loan. I didn't have a job. I was a student. He was on the loan with me. We qualified based on his income and his assets and his debt. He gifted me the down payment. Seller paid for the closing costs. And then did that exact same thing. I lived in the house, had 2 roommates. They paid for most of the mortgage every month. And then after I moved out of the house, kept it as a rental, and then did a 1031 exchange down the road. And so it's also a great way for parents to do it as well.
Yes.
And I think that it's what I'm hearing from you that I've never heard someone talk about is the fact that you're actually starting with the end in mind, right? You're actually working, you're working backwards. And I find that most people, I think once you know what that looks like, you realize that in most cases it's easier to achieve if you know what that looks like, and then where you guys have a plan that you can put somebody through. That's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. Need to know your why and then break it down into smaller sections so that it's attainable and achievable. It doesn't seem as scary.
Yeah.
And then you can just do it.
Well, and I love it, the fact, I said it before and I'm going to say it again because it is different, right? You'll take normally someone wants to list a house and then they pay you commission. Then you sell a new house, you get commission. Well, when you're turning it into a rental, you're not getting the sales commission. So you're really not, this is
It's
something
a lot of
that's,
work too.
right. It's in
For a
there.
little bit of money.
It means your heart is in it for them, not for yourself. So I need to make sure I keep pointing that out to all you listeners because I think that is really unique. And so I love that piece of it. And then let me just point out a couple of things from a lending side, just that Lauren mentioned, but make sure you all caught it. So when you buy a house, they've already told you that if you buy a house, you can buy with little or no money down. So if you buy a primary residence, it could be down payment grant, but let's pretend you don't want a grant. It's going to be 3 to 5% down, depending on when you've got the house, so you can get it with lower money and you get a better interest rate. Versus what you said, when you guys bought your third house, you had to put down more money, right? You're going to put down typically 20% or more. And then the interest rate's higher because you're riskier to the lender. And so your strategy really helps people, right, get into each house with less property and still have a better interest rate on the property. So that's why your strategy is money.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So with our strategy of converting your primary into an investment property, it's literally the cheapest and the easiest route to go. And you just keep leveling up from there. And the cool thing is that as long as you have a 12-month lease in place, you're going to be able to
Use that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Please take over from me.
Use that lease as like income.
Look at you guys.
Yeah,
See, you know the
absolutely.
guidelines
Thank
better than
you.
I do.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We call that departing residence income in the business.
Yes.
So they're going to use that, not 100% of it, just 75%, but that's pretty cool.
Yes.
So if you're renting it for $1,000, you get $750 of it counting towards income to offset the mortgage. So great point, since I forgot that. But that's really the key. And so what do you say to the person who's scared to rent out their house?
Why? Yeah. I mean, life is going to go by either way. I think you need to take risks, and the big guys are doing it anyway, so you might as well take advantage too. And it's for your life, your family, your legacy. I think you'd be silly to not.
Yeah, I love that when you say the big guys are doing it anyway, because what I think a lot of people don't know is how many hedge funds have money together putting their Jamie Dimon, who's the CEO of Chase, who's a pretty smart guy. They have $1 billion they're going to put into buying rentals. So really what they're trying to do is make everyone who's a renter continue to be a renter and make a profit.
Exactly.
And I always say, you're paying a mortgage either way. You're either paying your mortgage or your own mortgage or somebody else's mortgage. And I think people kind of forget that that whole piece of it. And, I don't think there's any perfect time to buy other than buy now or as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Right.
Whenever it's available.
And I just want to add that the people that we work with are the people that we like and like us back, and we know that they're good people and they have good hearts. So these people that we are showing them how to become landlords, they're not going to be a slumlord. Like, they're actually going to be doing a good service to the community, and they're going to be treating other people like people, and it's going to be a better world at the end of the day. That's what we're trying to do.
I love that you said that, because that's my wife's only criteria when we buy rental properties, that we're not slumlords.
Oh, yes.
So
100%.
100,
Yeah, you cannot,
always. She's like, we want to be great citizens out there. And I
absolutely.
think that's that says a lot to me. And I love that piece of it. I think, and I would say this from personal experience, the only, just keep in mind, how much, if you love your, when you have that strategy, you have to be okay with knowing that someone else is going to move in there after you and not love it as much as you loved it.
Yes.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Yes.
When my wife sewed the curtains on our first house, and then the people took them down and put tinfoil on the window, she wasn't really as happy, but they did do a nice job and fold them up and put them in the closet. So that was good. But she still was like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to that house again.
Right.
Yeah.
But that house made us a lot of money. We sold it for 3 times what we paid for it, and we're able to get, use that for the next part of our journey as investors. And I think you said it, you use the word landlord, and I think some people get nervous about that. So I did manage the first house that we had. I got college students who all lived in there since it was near the U of A. And then now all the homes that we have property managers. So I don't have, I don't get a call because the toilet's broken. I'll get an email the next morning that says the toilet's broken, we fixed it.
Exactly. Yep. What we always coach people is, if they're going to be the landlords themselves, or if they're going to hire a property manager, no matter what they're going to do, whenever they buy a property, always look at it with the eyeballs of, this is just temporary. This is going to be an asset later on. So don't get emotionally attached to it. That is going to be the biggest piece to the puzzle.
Yeah. Hard to do.
It is hard to do, you know what I mean? But don't love it like it's going to be your forever home, because it's not. It's going to be leveling you up to your forever home.
I love that, leveling you up. What about, you just said you teach 2 different classes, renter to homeowner and homeowner to entrepreneur. Can you talk about each of those?
Sure. Do you want to go for it?
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of like as they sound. Starting off with your first property, stop being a renter and becoming, I'm blanking, but you get your first
Here, I'll
property.
take over.
There you go. That's where.
And then
Right.
And then you guys teach this as a seminar, right? So people,
It
obviously
is
you're
a
going to do this
seminar.
one-on-one with clients, but you actually have a seminar that people are listening to this can
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So with the renter to homeowner, it's literally, this is where you're at. This is what you need to know. This is what you need to do. And this is what you need to be prepared for and the steps with that. So we literally lay out the whole thing, but we make it very easy. And then we give them something to take home so they have something to have and to look at. And then immediately it's, we come up with a one-on-one strategy session, because everyone's situation is different, and we find out what it is that they need to do so that they specifically can get a house, whether it's saving more money, maybe they need to do some credit or debt guidance, something like that, or maybe they're ready to go and we can just rock and roll with it. And then with the homeowner to entrepreneur seminar, they're already a homeowner, and now they want to basically rent out their house, and they want to find out, okay, well, what do I need to do that? And there's so many different strategies, because people want to do different things, whether it's short term, long term. It really just depends. But we just kind of talk about what that looks like. And we like to have small classes. That way everyone's interacting, everyone's asking questions. It just makes it's the best kind. It's the best.
And so I know that your website is, no, I don't know what it is. Let's find it. CastilloGroupHomes.com. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So they can get all your info there. They can follow you at the Lauren Castillo on Instagram, or Castillo Group RE for real estate as well. And would you post your seminars upcoming on those sites, or how would they best find out about those?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah, we're really big into social media. That is where we keep in contact with everyone. Yep.
Yeah.
And I also want to add, everything is organic. We don't buy leads, and I hate that in this industry people are looked at as leads and not as people. Everything is organic with us, and that is where people find us, is social media.
Yes.
I like that. Leads versus people.
Oh yeah.
And so when you're talking about this journey for people, I mean, what do you find? You said it's going to take time. So is and that probably depends on how much money they need to make, right? Because it's going to be the process of going from one to the next. What are you seeing most people are they getting a house every year, every 2 years? Obviously, it varies person to person, but what do you see kind of most people when you put the plan together? Is it a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan, or something shorter?
So are you talking about the full picture or just to the next house?
Let's do both.
Okay, so the last people that we talked to, they're actually going to be speeding things up. So they've already owned their house about 3 years, so they're going to be turning that into an investment property. They're going to be buying another house in Phoenix. They're going to live in that for probably a year, and then they're going to rent that out and move to Kentucky. And then they're going to buy a house in Kentucky. And then they're going to stay there for another couple of years and then move back to Phoenix, rent that house out. So within, about 4 years, they're going to have 4 homes and 3 investment properties.
That's awesome.
That's kind of the fast track, but that is very cool, having conversations like that.
Yeah, a lot of it, people are planning to maybe stay for like 2 years and then move, 2 years, move. But yeah,
sometimes it's a year. It really just depends on people's goals, how fast they want to do it. It also depends on where they're at in their life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well. Yeah.
Well, I just love the idea that it can be done in different ways, right? I mean, I think it's not one size fits all, and it sounds like you're taking the time to help people figure out how to get from here to Kentucky and back.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm sure there's a story behind it, but we won't go there on that one. I'm like, all right, they must have know more about their life than I know than I know about mine. And then, you said short-term rentals, long-term rentals. I mean, I think everyone varies on that too. So what's your advice if someone wants to do short-term rentals? I mean, it's kind of, in fashion right now. We see it on TV. Yeah. What's your thought on that?
Oh man. Just go into, you're gonna need a little bit more funds. Location is very key.
It's gonna be huge.
I mean, we've looked into it a few times and it just has never
scares you off.
It takes a lot more managing and time, and it's something that I don't really have the patience for. We like easy breezy. We like to keep things simple, and we just like the setup with a long term.
Put a tenant in.
Yeah.
Wait a year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know we can make a lot more money doing the short term as long as everything worked out perfectly, but that's not really the end goal. Right. The end goal to us is going to be the equity from a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. Eventually the house is paid off. That is what we're more looking for, is the retirement aspect of things. So another thing that we like to teach in the homeowner to entrepreneur class is you're basically borrowing as much money with properties as much as you want to retire. So
Love that.
Do you know what I mean? Yep. Yeah, so that's basically what we're teaching. It makes a lot more sense on a slide and when we can talk about it versus, just audio, but yeah.
A little tease to get into the class.
Exactly.
I like that. I'm not going to give it all away here. I'm going to hold a little back for you.
Got to check it out.
Yeah.
Well, I think what people forget is that, you just said it, you're going to have long-term appreciation, and then you also have someone else paying your mortgage. So every month there's principal that's done. And it's funny because I used to not track that. I had a spreadsheet, I tracked the value. And then what I realized was I actually need to track the equity. And so it's fun to see just how much, and the further I get into loans, how much more of the principal gets paid down every month. It's kind of crazy.
It's really fun. Yeah. And you get to play with that and you get to utilize it to duplicate even more investment properties. That's the fun part for us about it. It's just getting creative in that way, whether it's a 1031 exchange or whether it's selling it, it's so much fun.
Well, and it's, it's interesting to me because it's the whole idea of a lot of people are listening to this who bought a house a few years back and they're like, holy smokes, it did so great during the last few years. And even if it flattened out, it's still way up. And then I always say, well, gosh, think about that if you did that times 2 or 3 or 4, and then you're growing that asset base. So what a great strategy. I love that you're teaching that. And I knew once you said we are Wealth Designer Realtors, I'm going to steal that. I really like that.
Technically, I'm the Wealth Designer Realtor, and he's the Wealth Designer Broker.
Oh, all right.
Yes, he's the broker.
I like that. All right.
I'm slacking on that. Yes.
Yeah, let's not make sure. I'll make a note there.
Yeah.
Josean Broker. All right. So we
yes.
covered a lot. We talked about surprise. We talked about you guys. We talked about buyers, sellers, the market, and then we talked about wealth designing. Was there anything else that you think we should make sure we mention before we go anywhere? Something exciting that I forgot?
I would like to just add that life's going to go by no matter what. So just make it count, do what you want to do, and make smart decisions. Buy houses. It's literally It's the best thing we've ever done.
Yeah.
It's the best thing. It's set us
Life-changing.
up. It's very life changing. So time's gonna pass by anyways. Just do it.
Well, I'll say one last thing, and I hope this resonates with some people, because I think I could just leave it there, and I can't top that. So just
Yeah.
I'm bringing us down a notch.
Yes.
But I laugh because I listened to somebody say that time makes someone who bought real estate look smarter than they are. And I thought to about myself, right? If you looked in a short period of time when I bought rental properties that were worth negative $500,000 in the financial crisis, I looked pretty dumb. But now when you look fast forward another 10 years, I look like a genius. And so ultimately, I think that's what people forget. It's a long game, and the bottom line is that if you talk to somebody smart like you too, then I think that people will get there because you have a plan. It's not that you're doing it by accident; you're doing it by design.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Any investment property or any property that you purchase, I would always look at it as a long-term thing. At least minimum 10 years would be my recommendation, at least, but hopefully longer. We're not big believers in selling, so.
I think that's it. I think most of us don't regret every house we ever sold, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's something that, when you talk to investors, they're oftentimes going to tell you that, unless they sell their the house they didn't really like to move in, to get better houses.
Sure.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
But I'm
It
sure
has
that
to make sense.
I'm sure that'll be the third class you teach for those
Yes,
people now that are
yes.
entrepreneurs wanting how to build a dynasty.
Oh,
Oh,
gosh.
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you all enjoyed the show just as much as I did. So if you're thinking about buying, selling, or more importantly, investing in real estate to build wealth, make sure you reach out to the Castillos. We'll have all their information in the show notes. Thank you again. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having
Appreciate
us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. This episode is brought to you by homebuyeruniversity.net, your free comprehensive guide to buying or refinancing your home. Click over to homebuyeruniversity.net to get started online today.